So I wanted to make this video as the election approached, and I wanted to go through a couple of thoughts that I've been having about two books in particular, Plato's Republic and The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And now listen, I know everyone's got different opinions about Ayn Rand. Some people love her, some people hate her, but it's not really necessarily an idea that she had, but a question that she brought up that, if she's right, does have implications for the election. So I think that there are two questions, one question from each book. And if we ask those questions, then the answers to those questions might actually be able to help us tell who's going to win on Tuesday. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy. Everyone has their metrics. There's the people that have their system of if this, then that, and the polls and everything. So there are lots of people who are trying to come down on what is actually happening. But I'm here to give you my thoughts, and I'm here to give you the ideas from both Rand and Plato that might help us process exactly what's going to happen on Tuesday. The first one is from the Republic. And now, about a year ago, I made a video that was entitled Considering Political Shifts. And the question is, can Plato help us predict the next president? And basically, the question is, where are we politically on the scheme that Plato put forward? Now, in book 7 of the Republic, I think it's book 7, he talks about this series of political systems. And he starts with the best possible political system, which is, of course, the one that he espouses. And then he moves down in a series from the best system to complete tyranny. And in between, there are 3 systems, or 3 ways that a place can be governed. Now, the first, the best, is one governed by his philosopher king. And we're not going to get into what that looks like right now, but essentially we have competent people that are ruling the state. In the next, they're still pretty competent. This is called a timocracy. And the timocracy is essentially what you'd see kind of like in characterizations of Sparta, or maybe even like Nazi Germany, a warlike state. And it's basically the people who are the best at fighting, the people who are the toughest, the people who are the strongest, the people who love honor. They're the ones that are going to be at the helm of the state. So we still have competent people, but they're not people that love wisdom. They're people that love honor. They're people that love victory in battle. So we have these 2 states, and then it degenerates again into what we call an oligarchy. And an oligarchy is sort of similar, but you have now people that aren't really interested in honor, but they're more interested in money. Money is where it's at. And I think that there are plenty of reasons to believe that this is sort of where we're at right now, with all the lobbyists in Washington and Donald Trump as the president. We can pretty confidently say that our society values money quite a bit. And then it degenerates once more into a democracy. And now you might wonder, why is democracy so far down on this list? Democracy is at the bottom of the list because basically there's no merit for who's leading. I mean, everyone is actually ruling the state. So that's why Plato thinks that democracy is lowest. Now we have representative democracy. It's a little bit different, but essentially this idea that everyone has an equal voice, whether you're qualified or not, is something that Plato is very skeptical of. And then finally, you have a tyranny where one person is in charge, and that's all you get. You got one person in charge, and he can be good, he can be bad. So when you look at this system, we have to kind of picture where we're at, right? And where these candidates are going to be within this system. So the idea is that if you can track where we're located on that spectrum of political systems, then you can see where we're going. Okay. So for Plato, you never go backwards. So you never go from a tyranny up. It never gets better. You have to actually knock everything down and start fresh. So you can sort of see, based on where we are as a people, where we're going and which candidate is going to sort of be that. So let's just use this as an example. Let's just say that we are in this 3rd group. We're in this oligarchy group, and money is sort of the most important thing. If that's true, then we can assume that we're going to either stay there, and we would think that probably your money lover is going to be Donald Trump, or that we're going to descend into that next level, which is democracy. And now democracy, in this sense, actually has a lot of similarities to socialism. So basically, Biden would be your more socialist leaning candidate. Trump would be your more money leaning candidate, your corporatocracy, or whatever it might be. So the question is, where are we as a people? Are we ready to move into that next phase, or are we not? If we're not, then we're going to have a Trump victory. If we are, we're going to have a Biden victory. I think that's probably as close as you'll get. So personally, if you're asking me, I think that we're still run by the money people. We're still in that third group. We could be taking a plunge into that second, but I think that we're squarely in the third. So my guess would be, based on that Trump will win. However, there is yet another question that I wanted to bring up in this, and that is the question brought up by Ayn Rand. And now it's been a real long time since I've read The Fountainhead, and I don't even know if I'd recommend it to anybody. Frankly, it's a very long book, but in this book, we have this guy, and he's supposed to represent Ayn Rand's ideal person. And he does a bunch of good stuff, and then people don't like him because he's too good. And then he gets basically arrested, and he's going to get put in jail. And the part that kind of stood out to me is he's in trouble, and he makes a friend with this newspaper tycoon, and he basically represents the media. And this guy thinks, because he's done it for so long, he thinks that he can just basically, write his stuff, write up his papers and whatever, and make people change their minds. So currently, the guy who is in jail represents sort of Ayn Rand's philosophies, represents what's called objectivism, but really it's like libertarianism. It's kind of like let everyone do what they want to do. And the bad guy in this is a communist, essentially. He's a socialist. And the socialist is the one who gets our protagonist put in jail. And so this newspaper tycoon thinks that he can just essentially change everyone's mind. He thinks that he can make everyone believe what he wants them to believe, which is that this guy is innocent. And so he tries to persuade the entire world that this guy is innocent. And it really kind of reminds me of what's kind of happening with the media right now, that there's a whole group of people, the entire media is essentially trying to win this election for Joe Biden. And we are yet to tell if they will succeed or not. But in Ayn Rand's book, this guy fails because it turns out that he didn't have as much power as he thought he had. Now, that is the second question that we have to ask in this scheme, in this spectrum of power that the media might have, from a whole lot of power to essentially no power at all. Where do they actually land? If they are as powerful as they think they are, right? If they can actually persuade people, then Donald Trump has no chance, right? If 100% bad coverage all the time is going to create basically minds changed, then enough minds will be changed, right? People will not like Donald Trump, and a lot of people don't like Donald Trump. That's fine. But if they don't have as much power, if the entire media can make a concerted decision to run against somebody, if they can say, this guy is no good, we're going to get him out. And we as the media have the power to do that. If they can do that, then Donald Trump is done for. Then he's going to be voted out. So the two questions that I wanted to ask here is, what is our political status? What are we? What sorts of things does our country value? If we value, and I don't mean this in a biased way, right? If we value money, if we value the sort of person who is, a financial guy, then we're likely going to elect Trump if we value, um, sort of our own comfort, I guess would be sort of thing. Then we'll get Biden, frankly. And then the next question is, how do we look at the media? Are they able to do the things that they say they can do? Are they able to change people's minds, or do they not have as much power as they think? And these are both questions that I don't exactly have an answer to. My personal opinion is that we are not at a place where the country as a whole wants. Um, I don't want to use the word socialism because that's not exactly what I mean. We're not at a place where the country as a whole wants. Um, what would be a good word? Like everything to be level, where everything to be on one playing field. I think we still like the idea of some people being more powerful than others, and I think we all like the idea that maybe one day we can be that. And once we give up on that idea, I think we're going to be moving on down to that next rung, and that next rung is what Plato calls democracy, what we'll today call something like socialism or collectivism. As it pertains to the media, I think it's a really good question. Can they do what they think they can do? Right? Are they actually capable of changing your mind? Are they actually capable over a long period of time of changing public perception? If they are, then this election is done for. Then Biden's going to win. If they're not, then I think we have a Trump victory. I think there's a lot to say about the polls. There's a lot to say about the way this is being represented, that's indicating that this is the last stand, right? If Trump wins, I think this changes everything. I think there would have to be a major shift in how news is done and how our whole society acts and reacts to media. And it might happen, it might not. But I think we'll see. I think there's going to be major implications on our entire society, no matter which way this election goes. But I do think that ultimately, this election is going to be useful in pointing these things out, right? It will teach us, one, where we are politically. It will teach us what sorts of things our society values, and it will also teach us how powerful the media really is. And so, if we can't use that information beforehand to determine the president, at least we'll be able to use it afterward to kind of figure out what kind of mess we're in afterwards, one way or the other. So, that's what I have to say. I hope it's useful, and I hope that that it becomes very evident on the day what's going to happen, and we will certainly deal with that when it comes. All right. Thanks a lot. See you later.